Dan Bongino is joining us. He just released his brand new book. It's called Spygate, The Attempted Sabotage of Donald J. Trump. Gregg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst. And Dan has some catching up to do. He's been number one on the New York Times list with the Russia hoax. Welcome both of you to the program. You watch the tactics. You see the polls. For the first time, Rasmussen showing that Republicans have more enthusiasm than Democrats in the lead up to the midterm elections. I think the Kavanaugh hearings has awoken people to just how vicious the Democratic Party can be.
Yeah, listen, the old tactics of the past with the Republican Party, which you're intimately familiar with, were Democrats lob a political grenade right onto the field, usually some kind of, you go through the list every night on your Fox show, racist, misogynist, the istophobic, phobophobe kind of stuff, these identity politics grenades, and Republicans would scatter. Well, they tried a new one with Kavanaugh. They tried a really disgusting one, this rapist line, which is one of the most important things I've ever seen in politics. And for the first time, Sean, in a long time, we had a president in the White House who said, we're not going to back down, and Kavanaugh, we're not going to let you back down. We're going to back you up, and we won one. And that win, I believe, is really just, and listen, it's not a scientific sample. I don't want to oversell it. But based on me just driving around in my town, which is a 50-50 Republican-Democrat county, Martin County, Florida, Republicans could not be more ecstatic that we finally have a warrior and a fighter in the White House who is not going to flee the battlefield when that identity politics or disgusting label comes in from the Democrat Party. And I think it's really spiced up the Republican base, and I think we may have a decent election day.
Well, I'm not sure. I can't read the tea leaves. I think it all comes down in these midterm elections, always comes down to turnout. And if people are motivated, like the Rasmussen poll says, then it would happen. I'm looking at the numbers that Republicans are more mad about the Kavanaugh controversy than Democrats and are more determined to vote in the upcoming elections. This is a dramatic 25-point shift in just the last 6 weeks, Gregg Jarrett. So that would give hope to me and hopefully the American people that somehow the Republicans can buck the trend and maintain power in the House and maybe pick up some Senate seats, which I think are a distinct possibility.
Well, I think you're right. The only question is, with 27 days remaining, does this trend that Republicans are motivated and energized to vote have legs? Will it last over the course of the next 4 weeks? We just don't know that. But you're right, the polling data does show that. And, I think that there is a general anger among both men and women across America that this was a process, the confirmation hearing, that was anathema to fairness and the presumption of innocence and due process, and that absent some corroborating evidence from a 36-year-old claim, you really can't ruin somebody's career and their life. And, the reputation that they built up and the goodwill and their family's reputation. So, I do think that there is a feeling across America that a lot of this is unfair. Now, there are liberals and the media, which is redundant, who are so rabid that they don't care about fairness. They just care about their own political agenda, however misplaced and wrong it may be. And so you're never going to change their minds. There is no reasoning with unreasonable people. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's up to the Republican Party, I think, and the candidates, and indeed President Trump, to maintain the momentum going forward over the next 27 days.
Look, the Hill had a great article today about what their agenda is, and the Democrats have big plans, none of which will help the country. They want to shore up Obamacare, which has been nothing short of a disaster for the American people. They want more Dodd-Frank financial rules to protect, quote, dreamers and the integrity of elections. In other words, they want massive amnesty. They want to aggressively probe any single thing they can. They want this country locked down into endless investigation and likely the impeachment of Donald Trump. Republicans celebrate the passage of the biggest tax cut in history. They refer to it as crumbs, and they're saying it's time to take the crumbs back. I guess the crumbs are the most delicious part of the meal. So all of this is in jeopardy, Dan Bongino, I don't see a waning in people's enthusiasm now. I think they went so far in the Kavanaugh case, and frankly, in the last 2 years, what we have witnessed with and you chronicled this in your new book, the attempted sabotage of the president, I think they see the fundamental unfairness, and nothing they stand for is going to help the average American have a better life.
Right. And Sean, the media, and Greg just nailed it, by the way, the media and the Democrats, which is, it's symbiotic. I mean, it's a host and a parasite at this point. They're the same thing. They have ginned up this rage, not all of them, but many of them, against Donald Trump to such an intense point. I mean, think about the things, Sean, that have come out. I mean, new lows in politics. Donald Trump, Supreme Court nominee, called a rapist. Donald Trump called guilty of treason, a crime literally punishable by death. That's not hyperbolic. He's been called treasonous. They've ginned up the base so much, Sean, that here's the problem the Democrats have created for themselves in the election. That in order to seem like the more anti-Trump candidate to get that money and those volunteers for your 2020 presidential campaign, or to get that money in the midterms, what do you have to do? You have to oppose the traitor. You have to oppose the train rapist, or whatever sick name they called Kavanaugh. So that's what's leading to this psychopathology on the left. And I agree. I don't see this waning. And I do see Republican voters saying, listen, when is enough enough? You attack this American patriot in Kavanaugh. You try to take down the Trump administration, weaponizing the government. When is enough enough? And I think they're going to show up. I pray they do.
Well, what do you think about Hillary's endorsement of the incitement of getting in people's face, saying you can't be civil? She's basically calling for incivility. You can't be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about. And then the other comments made by people like Maxine Waters and others, get in their face, follow them into grocery stores, follow them into gas stations, confront them, chase them out of restaurants, which we have seen going on and on a regular basis.
For Republicans, it is absolutely wonderful. They ought to send an early Christmas gift to Hillary Clinton, Michael Avenatti, Maxine Waters, Jerry Nadler, Nancy Pelosi. Many of those individuals are calling for the investigation and impeachment of Brett Kavanaugh, which Americans realize is wrong and preposterous. I could certainly explain how on a legal basis impeachment is not possible for Brett Kavanaugh. But the more that these toxic individuals, and all of the ones I mentioned, especially Hillary Clinton, are toxic, the more that only drives Republican voters to the polls to make sure that these people are not in positions of power and will not be able to ruin the accomplishments of Donald Trump, which have been incredible. In the course of 2 years, he's accomplished more than Barack Obama did in 8 years, the greatest level of American economic growth and prosperity in modern American history. And that is not just made up. I mean, the statistics demonstrate that. And so if Americans want to maintain that prosperity and add, money to their wallets and deprive it from government officials who love to squander hard-earned money from American taxpayers, their choice is easy.
Well, I did like what Kevin McCarthy introduced, which is a bill to fully fund the Trump border wall. The president has already spent about, $3.5 billion. He needs about $23 billion more to get the job done. And I think that is certainly one of the big issues that Americans would be motivated to go out and vote for. And the other, I think, the president rightly said he could make as many as 4 more Supreme Court appointments. That is a massive issue at this point. It's a tipping point for the courts. If you think of the age and the health of some of the justices, there's no doubt there will be vacancies in years to come in the near future.
Yeah, and don't forget, Sean, the circuits and the district courts. The Supreme Court gets all of the attention. It's the sexy story, the highest court in the land, quite obviously. But as Greg can tell you, most of these cases that are of importance to American businesses, American individuals, moms and dads out there are settled at the circuit court level. They don't even make it to the Supreme Court. And Trump already has, 26 appointees to the circuit courts, and there's a couple more getting ready to be confirmed as well. So this is a really big deal. Now, we have, of course, the Ginsburg seat, that could come open if Trump wins re-election. It may come open. I say this, Sean, I'm worried. I mean it. I'm actually worried what will happen to the country if that seat, if Ginsburg decides to step down. I mean, look what we just witnessed with Kavanaugh. Can you imagine what's going to happen if that seat comes open and it's a potential 6-3 conservative majority on the courts? I mean, it genuinely frightens me. And again, it's not melodramatic. I worry for my kids what will happen.
All right, quick break. We'll have more with Dan Bongino and Gregg Jarrett on the other side. As we continue with Gregg Jarrett and Dan Bongino, both of you have been following and have been part of an ensemble group of us. There's not a lot of us following all of the deep state movements. Now the issue today, and we just had on Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan talking about Rod Rosen Stein is now saying he doesn't want to appear before the House Judiciary Committee on the issues before them, and that is the latest one that Lisa Page, Andrew McCabe, and James Baker have all said that Rod Rosenstein talked about surreptitiously taping the President of the United States in the hopes of getting something on tape that might invoke the 25th Amendment. This is the same Rod Rosenstein that is up to his eyeballs in conflict, having written a letter and recommended the firing of James Comey, the same guy that signed the fourth and final FISA warrant that we should have unredacted and released to the American people. That hasn't happened yet. And the same guy that appointed Robert Mueller. Why wouldn't he want to testify, Gregg Jarrett, under oath?
Well, he doesn't want a transcribed interview or anything under oath. Which Chairman Goodlatte and others are demanding. Why? If it's not recorded or not under oath, Rosenstein can do what he always does, deceive and lie with impunity without putting himself in legal jeopardy. So what Rosenstein really wants is, Mr. Goodlatte, let's just you and I sit down and have a cup of coffee and we'll chat a little bit. So if Rosenstein were to lie, as I suspect he might, he's not looking at a false and misleading statement to Congress. He's not looking at perjury because he can always deny the conversation that Goodlatte remembers, which is why this is so critically important.
Well, they've got to subpoena him, and they've got to demand he show up, and they've got to put him under oath, and these answers have to be given. But I got to let you both go, though. Right. Great job, Gregg Jarrett. Congrats on the success of the Russia hoax. Dan Bongino's new book is out right now, Spygate, The Attempted Sabotage of Donald J. Trump. That's soon to be a bestseller. Thank you, Dan Bongino. Appreciate you both being with us.